You're back at Squawk Box Asia side Monday morning. Vietnam is starting to appear on investor radars more and more. CNBC this week, all week long, in fact, is taking a special look at this frontier economy in our series, Vietnam, A New Era. CNBC's Maura Fogarty has just been there. She's here to tell us what the appeal is of Vietnam as it tries to get into the WTO more. It could happen end of this year. Maybe?
They're hoping end of the year. If you remember, they're hosting the APEC summit at the end of this year. That's when they're going to be meeting with U.S. President George W. Bush, also with other ASEAN and Asian leaders as well. So they want to make sure they've got that in the pocket before they host that meeting. Now, if you remember, Martin, we were seeing that this Vietnam country is clocking in a stellar 8.4% GDP growth last year. This year, it's targeting at least 8% economic expansion. The stock market is up 60% since the beginning of the year. And as you mentioned there, Hanoi is preparing to join the WTO. In this new era of investment, though, you've got many investors asking the question, is this for real?
When Microsoft founder Bill Gates went to Hanoi in April, that's when investors took notice of Vietnam again. Nike was one of the first to see promise and opportunity, and after 10 years, the country is now Nike's second largest source of footwear manufacturing after China.
You want to keep a diverse source base. You don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket.
Thanks to renewed interest from foreign investors and government reforms, Vietnam's economy is on the move, second only to China.
I like to call it Vietnam's three-act play. The first act of the play, everyone rushed in. The second act of the play, everyone rushed out. And then the third act of the play, we have stability.
Foreign direct investment in Vietnam rose to nearly $6 billion in 2005, 12% of GDP, higher than some of its Southeast Asian neighbors. The government expects foreigners to pour in $6.5 billion by the end of this year. The latest vote of confidence in Vietnam, Intel's $300 million chip plant.
The key now for the country is to continue to build on this momentum, because all growth is all about momentum.
To do that, Hanoi is racing to improve the country's infrastructure. Besides the usual calls for a better legal and regulatory framework and reducing bureaucratic red tape, some warn Vietnam's biggest challenge is having enough high-level talent. 31 years after the end of a long, drawn-out and costly war, a new battle is shaping up between what Vietnam wants to achieve and its ability to succeed.
Part of the reason why Vietnam is so forward-looking is demographics. More than half the population is under the age of 25, and they have no recollection of the Vietnam War.
And that means huge profit potential for companies like Mobile Solution Services. Phan Công Tan started the company, which helps provide ringtones and other cell phone content, after returning to the land he left when he was 4.
While I was in university, one of my dreams was to come back to Vietnam. A little contribution, and thousands of my little contribution and others' contribution will bring this country up.
Vietnam is counting on him and thousands of other overseas Vietnamese to help develop the budding private sector. The recent leadership change is boosting optimism the country will continue to push ahead with economic reforms. If not, Vietnam risks being left further and further behind.
Well, and that's something that Vietnam does not want to happen. When it looks around its neighbors, Martin, it sees countries like Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, even China having progressed economically so much, and it wants to catch up.
Interesting.